Good day, televiewers. You're welcome on board this shift of your broadcast of choice. Call it The Lamb over WAKA Africa TV. The Lamb is a program where we talk about current issues, views, facts with different voices for a better tomorrow. On The Lamb, we brighten our minds, ideas, and redirect our focus to give it a better tomorrow, which we all desire. To introduce our topic of discussion for this day, we'll be looking at sexual harassment in schools and at work. Whose fault is it? Permit me now introduce to you my guest in the studio. On my left, we have RUTH Chair WACHONG. She's a pioneer member of the Me Too campaign to stop sexual harassment in Cameroon, and she's also the communications officer at Medino Bamenda. It's a pleasure having you on set.
Thank you for having me.
Equally, we have Jeff NGAWE. He is a journalist and a teacher trainer. It's a pleasure having you on set, sir.
Thanks so much. I feel honored to be on the set.
Okay, today we will be talking about sexual harassment. It's obvious that we have, or there exist three types of harassment at work or at the workplace. Namely, you have discrimination, sexual, and mental harassments. But we find pleasure to discuss today about sexual harassment, which, of course, is a very big problem in our today country, Cameroon. I will be starting with RUTH Chair WACHONG. What is your understanding of sexual harassment? What's sexual harassment all about?
Well, sexual harassment is a very broad topic, and to curb it, put it in the scope of our program, sexual harassment is exhibited or exercised through touching. It's either you touch somebody in sensitive parts, you bring up sexually oriented topics with somebody that you're not, that is not your sexual partner. For example, your colleague. We are talking about sexual harassment at the workplace and in schools. For you to maybe bring up sexual discussions, to know about the sexual orientation of a colleague or a classmate, that is sexual harassment. You are sexually harassing that person, especially if you do not have any intimacy with that person. You have no right to bring up such topics, to discuss things like that with people that you're not, you don't have that intimacy with. So sexual harassment in a scope would be talking, touching, it's physical, it's psychological, because it can equally render it strengthens or how it stresses one and stuff. So, well, per our topic for today, I think that is what I can say. Sexual harassment is a crime, of course, and should be stopped.
Who are those exposed to this?
Well, 95% or let's say 98% of victims of sexual harassment are women, unfortunately. And different reasons have come up. I would like to go back to our campaign, the Me Too campaign. I am one of the pioneer members of that campaign. And why we decided to launch that campaign was because we had several, complaints from students, female staff who were being sexually harassed by their bosses, by their teachers. There is this thing about sexually transmissible marks. Most people are very comfortable with it, but it is a taboo because you have to merit something, and it's frustrating when you merit a job or you merit great at school, and you need to still maybe sleep with your boss or your lecturer in order to have that, to have your marks or to have that job. It's a taboo. So I think the women folk are those who are, they are the real victims of sexual harassment. We've had several cases, reported, especially when we launched the campaign. We had so many people who opened up with the Me Too hashtag. I am also a victim. I am a victim too of sexual harassment. I am a victim. That is why I took the campaign very personal, because I have been sexually harassed at school and while working. So I understand exactly how frustrating it can be for a student or an employee, you know, to be sexually harassed by the employer and the lecturer.
I understand that you people engaged this campaign this year. Have
Sure.
you taken stock of how it has gone so far?
Yes, yes. And the feedback has been amazing. You know, we started by holding a Twitter conversation. You know, Twitter is an international something that everyone from across the globe participated in it. We had so much feedback from that Twitter chat, where we came up with our different experiences. Some of us went to Facebook, different social media handles. We expressed ourselves. We told the children and those who are still feeling, because there are victims who are shy, you know, to come out and say, I am a victim. So we gave them the go ahead, not to feel bad. We equally had the other way we got people involved was that we sent out letters to institutions,
okay,
and to establishments, because we got those complaints, especially from media houses and higher institutions of learning. So we had to draft letters, which we all signed, those of us, the pioneer farmer members of that campaign. We sent to institutions and media organs, and they gave us response. And the feedback, when I say the feedback has been amazing, I'm talking about the number of people who have been able to come out of their shelf. You know, they were scared to say, I'm being sexually harassed by this person. So we made the institutions to know that if you sexually harass your staff or you sexually harass your student, there is provision for punishment.
Yeah.
Yes, in our law, you know, it's punishable by law to harass somebody. When you're not comfortable anywhere, you have the right to speak up, and when you speak up, the establishment or the school has to follow up. So I can say the feedback has been great so far.
Jeff NGAWE, you are a gentleman. What is your understanding of sexual harassment?
Yes, thank you for that question. Sexual harassment primarily is a comment that you can make about sex, and it's a physical contact. And when you make this comment, you get into this physical contact. Usually, this happens in the school environment. It happens in places of work, and this contact, this comment you make about sex is usually annoying and offensive.
What promotes such comments?
You know, male and female, there is this natural push or natural pull.
Mm-hmm.
So what promotes such comments? Sometimes it's the physical appearance of the lady, in terms that the comments come from a man, is the physical beauty in the first place of the lady, and then you can push it further to talk about the way the lady presents herself, maybe in terms of dressing, in terms of makeups, and the style of the dressing and other such.
Is there anything wrong with complimenting one's beauty or dress style?
There's nothing wrong. There may be nothing wrong, but it depends on the dressing style. Because some of the things that push a man, for example, a male, for example, to harass a lady, maybe her dressing style, exposure of some parts which naturally should not be seen by men.
Okay.
I would like to come back to you when you talk of your dressing style. I don't understand. Can you be elaborate? Can you be
yes,
more? I really want to understand what you're talking about. How does my dressing influence you sexually harassing me?
I have seen ladies. I mean, I want to first of all appreciate the way you are dressing. So when I talk about dressing style, the way you dress now is totally out of the way. But when I talk about dressing style that pushes a man or a boy to harass a lady sexually, I've seen dresses where the open chest and then the breasts are quite visible. You have seen dresses where the back, your back is exposed. Example, a typical one is the one in which your breast, the breast is not a part of the body that should be seen. In terms of decency, your breast should not be seen. So that is one example. To dress in a way that your breast is exposed, then it can push a man.
In other words, what you're trying to say is that if you have cravings for pear and you see your neighbor, maybe your neighbor has pears at his backyard, you just go ahead to harvest the pear because you have that craving for pear. You do not follow the procedure. You're trying to give an excuse why men harass women sexually. I really do not follow. I really want to understand what you're talking about.
Ruth,
because
WACHONG, don't you think too that the dress style of girls, it's often said men are moved or pushed by what they see. Don't you think the dress style could be the problem?
There is no guarantee. There is no excuse for a man to sexually harass a woman, even if she is naked. She is not your girl. There are so many ways you can go about it. If you want to have a relationship with that person, go ahead and propose a relationship. Do not harass. When we talk about sexual harassment, it's about, blackmailing somebody, to give you something for something, to maybe sell her body to you for something, or touching me. No, you don't touch me. If I'm your colleague, we are colleagues. And it ends at that level. You can't touch me. You can't look into my breast and look into my whatever, because my dressing, if I am comfortable with it, I think the dressing is so comfortable for that environment. So I think there is no excuse, and I still repeat, there is no excuse to sexually harass a woman. No.
Actually, there is no excuse, but we're talking about a situation where someone is pushed into doing it because of the way that the opposite sex presents herself before a man. Let's take for example, you are just normal, and then you go out on an occasion. We know that there are some socialization aspects of socialization that can eventually lead people to go otherwise. So, for example, someone who has taken alcohol, when you take your alcohol, you are no longer in the right senses like a human being. So, and then a woman is before you naked, half naked, and then the breast is exposed. Those are elements that pushes, or that's an element that can push you to harass a woman. Meanwhile, if you were in your right senses, you might not go to that extent. So
you see that we are talking about the same thing. There is a saying that goes, there is no ignorance before the law. You can't sexually harass me and you claim that you were not in your right senses. No, it doesn't work that way, because everything you do when you're under the influence of alcohol was premeditated You can't tell me that you would just meet a lady today because you saw her breasts out, and then the next minute you want to sexually harass that person. I still go back to my point that there is no excuse. There is no excuse. We are saying the same thing, Mr. J.
We're talking about a situation where there is no excuse, but the way you present yourself, the harassment has been done. We're not saying that the law will not act, but before the law comes in, the harassment has been done. Meanwhile, if your breasts weren't exposed, the harassment will not have taken place.
Now we are in an African context where it takes about 2, 3 to maybe even 5 advances before you can woo a lady. A lady will say, no, I will not adhere to a first time because he will see me as cheap and so on. And sexual harassment talks about these persistent and unwanted advances. How do we distinguish between these two? Somebody who comes with a genuine intention and then the other person who is harassing.
Well, to answer your question, Mr. Ambe, sexual harassment, what we term sexual harassment is when you persistently do it. Like if you touch me in inappropriate parts, there are body parts I have that you could, for example, we can't be sitting here and you touch me on my breast. You've sexually harassed me.
Yeah.
Sure, you can't touch my butt just because I'm wearing something that shows my curves and everything. Even if you're under the influence of alcohol, you understand. And to answer the question, of course, you need to woo a lady. If you like a lady, there are so many ways to woo a lady responsibly. Okay. You do not woo a lady by touching the person or bringing up sexual oriented topics when you're with that person, especially if she's not your partner. Wait for that moment when you guys are a couple, you know, you can now talk about that and all whatnot. So persistently harassing, touching somebody, or persistently bringing up topics about sex with somebody that is just your colleague or your classmate, trust me, you are out of bounds and you're sexually harassing that person, even if you know it or not.
Jeff NGAWE, you are a journalist and a teacher trainer. This aspect of sexual harassment is mostly noticed, you know, in journalism schools and of course in schools too, where we have adults. Do you witness them on a daily basis?
It all boils down to the way that the lady, for example, presents herself. Now, look at a situation where I'm talking about a school environment now. A lady, for example, I teach in a teacher training college. Yeah. I deal with adults. I can say that they're adults because to get to teacher training, although there are young girls to get there, but mostly they are adults. Okay, the lady gets to the teacher's house, maybe for assignments, maybe for a project that she's into. Then, you know, in the school, the dressing code is there. It is the big, the skirt is usually large, and then pleated skirts, and then the upper blouse is also a big shirt. Okay, that is that in the school. Then you have to pass your lesson notes maybe you get to the teacher for a lesson I have to teach tomorrow, maybe during times of teaching practice. Okay, the student now, when she gets home, she gets into her real self, as I can say it, because the school and the outside, they're two different environments. Yeah. Okay, a lady comes, I come back to this open chest, your breasts are showing. In the school, there is no painting of the eyes or eyelashes, paint on the lips. Okay, you get back home, you are going to pass your assignment, you are going to get to the teacher who's working with you on your project. Okay, the lady comes with breasts showing, comes with a mini type of skirt, and then you have to sit side by side with a student that you need to discuss on issues.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the way that a lady is before you, it can push you to harass.
That is if you are not disciplined.
If you are not disciplined.
Thank you.
If you are not, because
responsible
in a school milieu, I mean in a professional milieu or in a teaching, there are elderly people, there are young people who have just left school, and maybe they hope to get married and those type of things. So maybe the guys are pushed because of the dressing style of the lady. It still boils down to if you are not responsible. And then those who are not responsible, they get into it because, as I insist, of the way the lady has presented herself before the young man.
Well, I would like to add do a little contribution to what you just said. I think that there is something about professionalism. Being a professional means everything that concerns work should be dealt with at the workplace. Everything that concerns school should be handled at school. There is no need for a student to visit a teacher or headmaster, be it proprietor or supervisor or whatever, out of the school milieu. It is not accepted. But in the case where it is an arrangement, because recently that is how we have it.
Yeah.
I think in the university I remember I had to go to my supervisor's place. I had to meet with him, to present my project and all whatnot. It boils down to the same example you gave before, being tipsy or being drunk. If your student comes to your house improperly dressed, as a responsible teacher, you're not just a teacher to that student, you're equally a parent, because you are the guidance. Why the student is at school, you are guiding that student, like it or not. So you are responsible for that student. So there is no excuse for you to want to sexually harass her because you feel like she has exposed her breast, or she came wearing miniskirts or whatever. It is for you as a responsible gentleman to tell her, no, go back to your house, change, wear something proper and come back, or you ignore it because you have a focus. That is being responsible. Yeah.
These body parts that we talk about covering, as he said in his presentation, I think most often we watch music on TV where you see ladies, you see a gentleman well dressed in suit, he's singing his music. You see ladies behind him with pants and they're half naked. Are these body parts really valuable before we parade with them as such?
Well, Mr. Ambe, that is another aspect of it. That is how I'll say it's a marketing strategy for the musicians, because I'm sure we all know that not all musicians have dancers with exposed breast and exposed body parts.
Yeah.
Some of them are responsible, meanwhile others are crazy, in quotes. That is their own way of doing their thing. So if that person does that, I think it's their way, it's a marketing strategy or whatever. But as a student or an employer or an employee rather, I'm talking in line with our topic here. We are talking about sexual harassment at schools and at the offices. It is my duty to dress responsibly to work. I am just coming from my office.
Yeah.
It is my duty to dress. There are dresses I will wear to the office that I would not wear to maybe if I had to go to the nightclub, if I had to go to church and stuff. But trust me, exposing your body parts doesn't make you look good. Yeah, girls, this is for you. Exposing you do not necessarily have to expose your body parts, you know, to look good before people, because as hard as we try to you know, to counter or to deny this, at times we push these men to want to, you know, sexually harass us, and by the way, you know, in the way we present ourselves. But I'm not complimenting what Jeff said. I'm not in support of that. I still stand by the fact that there is no excuse whatsoever to sexually harass anyone who is under your care, be it your subordinates, because it normally happens between employers and employees, bosses and their subordinates, students and their teachers. You understand? So they make it so difficult for you to concentrate at work and equally to concentrate at school, which affects your results at the end of the day. So every teacher, every employer, you are supposed to be responsible enough to look past some of these things.
As a teacher, have you ever witnessed sexual harassment from a student? Can you even read the signs when you see one?
The signs are there.
Okay.
The signs are there. As a teacher, teachers have even received letters
from students.
That students write, and then expressing their love, expressing how they like this teacher, or how they enjoy the way he talks, the way he teaches. That one is quite, I mean, it's
common.
No, it's not common. That is an extreme.
Okay.
It's an extreme. But
with such cases, how do you people handle it in your circle? When the teacher reports that he received a letter from a student, how do you people manage it? Because if it is not managed at that level, then there's a problem.
No, under normal circumstance, you have hardly had a report.
Okay. Yes, the teachers give in.
No, not that they give in. They try to handle it.
Okay.
How?
Their way.
How do you handle it?
That is, we have discussed in our discussion.
Yeah.
Teachers have mentioned that they have received a letter written by a female student.
Mm.
How you handle it is to warn the student that this is not what you came here for.
Were the teachers exposing body parts before the students were sexually harassing them?
I've said that in that letter. Talked about how the teacher speaks, how the teacher dresses.
So you now understand that you must not expose your body part before.
Yes,
you're sexually
harassed.
Body parts.
Okay, before I get back to you, we also have this phenomenon where little children are being sexually harassed by uncles and neighbors and friends. They touch their breasts as tender as 2 years, 3 years. They play with them. My wife, my this. Don't you think some of these things breed sexual harassment?
And that is why we encourage every family out there, every individual, to our viewers. If you notice that, be it your neighbor, be it in your house, that such is going on, you need to stop it. You need to report to the appropriate authorities so that, you know, actions are taken immediately to stop it. That is sexual harassment. Touching a little child who barely knows nothing about sex is sexual. You're sexually harassing that child. She or he might not know at that point, you know, at that tender age, that it's a crime that needs to be punished, it needs to be reported, but you need to orientate your children. That's why we encourage parents to orientate their kids, orientate your teenagers at teenage ages, you know, to have that sexual orientation, that okay, if this uncle touches you in or looks at you somehow, report to your parents. Children, report to your parents. Parents, report to the appropriate authorities so they can take the measures that are to be taken to stop that. Because if you do not stop that, the real act is going to happen. Remember, sexually harassing somebody is not doing the act, is not having sex with that person. It leads to sex in most cases. So you need to stop it at the beginning. Because if you do not stop it, you're giving that person maybe the go-ahead to continue, and who knows, one day you might be able to give in, just because some give in because they do not have a choice. Like from the testimonies we had, some said they needed a job so badly, some said they equally needed to graduate from university and stuff, so they had to give in to their lecturers and to their employers. It is a crime and it should be punished.
Jeff NGAWE, you are a parent, and we have the students we send to school. When you go to their university areas and you see the way they dress, probably it's a problem, though we advocate that a responsible person will not sexually harass them. Don't you think parents also have a role to play to educate these children on the way they should look?
Yes, that is quite very, very important, like you were saying. Maybe a word to the parent is that when you send your children to school, maybe they've left Bamenda, they've gone to Ndop, they've gone to Mbengwi for schooling, you need to provide for them the necessary basics that they need, because some of the reasons why the students get out and dress maybe funny and give some type of facial looks to men is because maybe they don't have food, they don't have, tomorrow they are faced with an assignment, maybe they don't have money to get to the internet to do an assignment. So parents is a big issue for parents. To curb the harassment is to provide for a lady, for a girl child, give her caution at home and give her the positive and the negative side, and above all, provide physical needs so that they will not turn to others for these needs. And some of the ways that they turn to others for this need is to dress or present themselves in a way that will entice the men.
We are about to say bye-bye. What are your last words on the subject?
Well, my last words are my first words from the beginning of the show. Sexual harassment is a crime, and every perpetrator is to be punished. It is inscribed in the law. If you are a victim of sexual harassment, it is high time you come out and report to the appropriate authorities. For students, I will advise you to report to the administration. You can report to the principal, you can write to the school authorities. Meanwhile, for employees, if you're being sexually harassed by your boss, you need to write, you need to report, make the management of that organization or establishment you work for, they need to be aware that you are being sexually harassed, because it is a crime. Staying quiet means you are an accomplice to it. It means you are contemplating of maybe
to give in,
which is at that point you're on your own. So if you think that you're sexually harassed, it is high time you come out of your shelf. If you've been sexually harassed before, or you're being sexually harassed as you watch us right now, it is high time you come out. I am a victim of sexual harassment. I would say it any day, anytime. I have been a victim of sexual harassment, and it was so good. I felt so great when I opened up to my fellow colleagues and to the entire world, because I did a video which circulated on social media that I am a victim of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a crime. Perpetrators should and must be punished. Thank you.
It happens virtually every day in our society. NGAWE, your last point.
Yes, I want to speak to students. Students, be decent, study hard, because it's not magic to pass. Don't go and get into things that are not necessary. Then at the minute you begin to run after teachers and looking for marks. Those are the areas that you give in to these teachers, maybe to harass you and get you because of marks. I'm talking to parents that do your best. If you education is not cheap. Education is expensive. When you send your daughters to school, provide for them so that they will not give themselves out to men who will maybe harass them, or they will not dress in a way that men will harass them, so that they can be able to please themselves.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you on set, Ruth.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you for being there, Jeff.
Thank you, Ambe.
Sexual harassment and unwanted sexual advances is typically very bad, and we must say no to it. It should be noted that the Penal Code of 2016 302 sub 1 gives a fine of 6 months to 1 year, and equally a fine of 100,000 to 1 million to be paid. Equally, it states that from 1 year to 3 years, especially when the victim is a minor. We can make it better if and only if we want it better. So I look forward to having you contribute your own quarter, so much so that we can fight this cankerworm. It was a pleasure having you on board this edition of the program, The Lamb over WAKA Africa TV, here in Bamenda. I have been Staff Man Ambe, Macmillian Hour, wishing you the best.